Lord Duka Enterprises. Lord Duka. His name was Larry. Larry was his real name. But he changed Larry to Lord after he received an inheritance from his grandfather. He'd grown up with his grandfather. So Larry changed his first name to Lord. And he didn't like the last name Dogson, so he had it legally changed to Duka, because it just came to him in a dream. Larry was a peculiar chap, all right. He was a bit something missing, maybe something weird in his brain. Nowadays, he likely would have been given a diagnosis, but back then, as being some kind of psycho-sadist or something, because he was really into pain. Lord Duka was obsessed with suffering. He suffered himself and he made people suffer. So he wasn't a very likable person, but he was very successful. He made a lot of money, but he always wanted to feel more powerful. He was never satisfied. His big drive was for power, a lust for power. And so he bought the textile factory, and because it was big, the factory was big, and big things made Lord Duka feel big, so he transformed it into condos, renovated it. He hired Snow White Enterprises, who subcontracted it out to the Goo Underground. But the Goo Underground did a shoddy job, because when they were picked up a cargo container from the port, and there were some bees in there. Dormant bees had swarmed there. Apparently, it was from the Far East. And these were weird bumblebees. When they stung you, they didn't die. Well, they were sort of yellow jackets, some kind of mutates, a mix between a wasp and a bee. And when they stung you, they would inject you with a venom that made you feel real good. It's almost like they were filled with a kind of opiate type substance, and they had psychedelic patterns on their wings. And when they injected their stinger into the sting hole, through the sting hole, they would inject what they called, Goo Underground called it bee stinger dust. And it was a substance sort of that went into the bloodstream and would fill you with calm and serene waves. It would make you feel real good. It would put you with the angels. And so a lot of the workers from the Goo Underground working for Snow White Enterprises to renovate this textile factory into condos for Lord Duka did shoddy work. There were leaky pipes, ill-fitting pipes, and sometimes the paneling didn't line up properly, the sheathing on the outside, and the drywall was all sloppy, but it looked okay, when it was finished. Anything brand new often looks okay, and so that's how Lord Duka got started in this huge building. The workers joked and they called it the House of Pain, because it was painful to build, because it was made from a lot of the materials was prefab. It was like built in a factory and you were just supposed to assemble it on location, but a lot of the stuff didn't quite fit together properly. So the underground, they called it the House of Pain, Lord Duka's House of Pain. A violent incident occurred while workers were building condos inside the superstructure of the old textile factory. A brawl broke out. Intoxicated workers started fighting. A man knocked down, hit his head on a block of cement and died. They grabbed his body and threw it into the insulation space between the walls of two condos, and they left the corpse to rot. The building did get built. Renovations were complete. Condos were for sale. Rose Gardner, a retired psychic, decided to move to the city, into a condo. Right away, she didn't like it. She realized she'd made a big mistake and she wanted to go back to the country. One day, a huge downpour Water leaked through the roof and ran down the walls, and the drywall of her apartment was completely soaked. She'd made friends with a young man who lived in the basement, a guy who went around doing little repairs. So she called him up. He was about 25, and he removed the wet drywall and found the remains. It was almost all down to the skeleton, but that's what was causing the Rose to have bad dreams. She was a retired psychic, and she'd been picking up vibes. She could sense that something bad had happened in her room, and in fact, it was in her bedroom where the fight had occurred and where the man had been killed. She demanded a refund for her condo, and she moved back to the country. She left Lord Duka and his building. She washed her hands of Lord Duka and the building.